We'll look at things such as change and innovation. How adept is your innovation pack at absorbing change and making change? Do they focus on innovation? Do they have the capability for that? We'll look at how externally focused or oriented they are. There are a variety of different factors there. If it's an insular culture, are they actually looking outside? We'll look at things like risk and how do they deal with risk as an organization. How do they make sure that they are following their own procedures and policies? Things like that, which is really important. We also look at how much do they work together. How much do they collaborate as a successful organization? All those things can give a pretty good insight into their culture. We'll look at things such as how committed are they to the organization. I mentioned the organizational courage, and the other thing is inclusion. How much do they focus on that? I don't mean just the textbook inclusion. You see a lot in the press right now, and that's an aspect of it, so obviously inclusion. We look at things such as gender, orientation, ethnicity, but inclusion is broader than that. Typically, it also includes diversity of thought and things of that nature. So we look at all those elements when we're assessing the culture of a company. It's essentially a really souped up survey. That, with a whole bunch of analytics behind it, that we essentially compare against other clients where we've done this. But we can also see relatively where the client's culture is compared to the others and obviously align the results for the comparison purpose. We also use focus groups because if you rely on one form too much, whether it's the survey or the focus groups, you don't really get the full picture. So we'll have several focus groups on top of that, and we'll put together the focus groups, and depending on the situation, we might pull extras if it's a global company. They will include individuals who serve different areas and on different levels. A lot of the time, we also do interviews. It's always interesting to see if there is a disconnect between what the actual culture is and what the executives think he or she has and the culture everyone else believes is there. The only absolute is don't lie. If you lie, then the organization's credibility is gone, as well as keeping your change professional. So I think that's the only absolute. Anything aside from that, you have to work with the organization to determine what is appropriate, and obviously they have their own concerns and tolerance for how much information to let out at a specific period of time. You just have to work with them because you also have to think about how quickly people can absorb the change in the information. So, if you tell somebody on day one, this is exactly how your job is going to change, that may add some uncertainty. Plus, I guarantee you don't know that. There's no way you'll know it that quickly. I also have a client with a merger starting to explain why the merger is happening. Starting to explain how it fits the long-term strategic interests of the company. Specifically, what the overall high-level plans are, which, at this state of the merger, that's usually all we know. We also put in place a panel of individuals from a variety of different locations and at all different levels to identify what the key mission is. When you're looking at culture, you always need to look at the observable, demonstrable behaviors. That's the only way you can make it tangible. When we did that, we came up with a set of governing behaviors that were going to define the culture, and we had the executive agree that the manager that was driving this effort would be protected. By protected, I mean that the manager's boss could not retaliate against him. I came here for two reasons, for the culture and the focus on our people. I think companies that succeed, and a lot of the firms that succeed, have those focuses. And ultimately, when firms lose sight of that, that's when they falter. Companies that are making short-term financial decisions while sacrificing the long-term are going to struggle down the road. Well, I guess all I have to say is, come work for Deloitte.